Now we will be discussing that why English has become the global language. So initially we have got the information that why how English language is spread all over the world. And now we are in a position that we will be discussing on why English language has become the global language. So what is the foundation? So I have undertaken to write a grammar of English, says John Wallis in his preface to Grammar of the English Language, because there is a clearly great demand of English for it foreigners and who want to be able to understand the various important works which are written in our tongue. So this is the preface of grammar writer. His name is John Wallis. He said that yes, the people they want to learn English language all over the world. For this reason, a grammar book is very necessary. And he goes on, all kinds of literature sorry, are widely available in English edition. And without boasting, it can be said that there is scarcely any worthwhile body of knowledge which hasn't been recorded today adequately at last in the English language. So every field of human knowledge now they are written in English language. And he said, that means John Wallis, who said that it is the scenario of English language. This is a familiar sounding argument of 21st century years, but these bold words are not from a modern author. John Wallis was writing in England in 1764. So this is the initiative or write-up that John Wallis wrote in the second half of 18th century. Then the dominance of Latin all over the world. In such a situation, the writer John Wallis claimed that English language will be used all over the world. And uh, but that scenario was also changed after the time of William Shakespeare. And Shakespeare changed a great deal of the attitude towards English language. So we can presume that actually the attraction of the people all over the world. This is one reason, and another reason that if William Shakespeare wouldn't uh, uh, come as a famous writer of English literature, English language wouldn't be spread in such a way. So the attitude of language will also be depending on the attitude of the great literature. A few generations earlier, Richard Malcaster, the headmaster of the Merchant Taylor School, had been one of the strongest supporters of English language, avowing in 1582 that I love Rome, but London better. I favor Italy, but England more. I honor the Latin, but I worship the English. So this is the scenario. This is Richard Malcaster he has presented. However, Malcaster was living in a very different intellectual climate. He felt he had to defend the language against those who believed that English shouldn't usurp the long-established place of Latin. Okay, so we know that uh, the power of a language will be depending on the power of its country. So Latin at that time was a mighty language, and Latin was the predominating language at that time. But what would be the next scenario? And that is the many critics, he has claimed that English language was gradually taking the place of Latin. So he expressed himself strongly that I do not think that any language is better able to utter all arguments and either with more pith or better painless as our English tongue is. So Marquester said that English is a very easy language, and with the English language we can express a thing very clearly and without any effort. So they have said, though they are later they use that is the Latin later, but we see the clarity of expression and the other things that we have discussed a little bit at the initial stages of this class. That means the English language is very easy to use. The grammar is used. Though David Crystal has discarded the idea, that means still English language is very tough. Still, English language has some clarity in expression. People can express their views in a very easy way. And this is of the reason that English language has become the global language. Despite his strong conviction, Mulcaster could still see that there is a problem. English was no real match for Latin in an international level. Our English tongue, he says, at one point is small reach. It is stretched no further than this island of ours, nay, not over there overall. He has right, for the Celtic language were still strongly present in the Britain at the time, and a few people engaged in foreign travel. Our state, Mulcaster remarks, is no impaired, is to hope to enlarge it by commanding our countries. But within 2 years, Walter Raleigh, first expedition to America, had set sail, and the situation was about to alter fundamentally. So the situation, that means we have we have seen that towards the second part of the 18th century, that English was coming to dominate the Latin language. So Latin before in the 17th century, 16th century, 14th century, English language, the Latin language was the dominant language. So towards the end of the second half of 18th century, that English language was coming to dominate, and that is established with the writings of William Shakespeare, and also when the expedition, Walter Raleigh had the expedition towards America. And not all were the pessimists as Mulcaster, though. As Samuel Daniel, in his poem Mosophilis, wrote in 1599, and who in time knows whether we may vent the treasure of our language to what strange shores, and this gain of our best glory shall be sent to enrich unknowing nations without stores, which worlds in the yet unformed Occidents may come refined with the accents and are ours. Daniel's speculations did become a reality, that not for well over a century. When 50 years later, the poet and the traveler Richard Flecknoe reflected on his 10 years journey through Europe, Asia, Africa, and America, he found that Spanish and Dutch were the really useful language to know, with English being only occasionally helpful, as he put it, to stop holes with. So English is a necessary language, and the Spanish, Dutch, and the other language is a supporting language, according to Richard Flecknoe. And by the 1750 decades, it was possible for the Earl of Chesterfield to write that I have a sensible pleasure in reflecting upon the rapid progress which our language has lately made and still continues to make all over Europe. So this is the situation of English language that we notice. And David Hume, writing in 1767, at a time when French was recognized as the language of international diplomacy, and saw in America the key of the future success of English, and let the French therefore trump of the present diffusion of our tongue. And our solid and the increasing establishment in America promise a superior stability and the duration of the English language. So this is many Americans agreed that in 1780, John Adams, as a part of his proposal of the Congress for an American Academy, was in no doubt. English is destined to be the next and the succeeding centuries more general the language of the world than Latin was in the last or the French is in the present age. So American, when America was occupied, the British travelers, and after that time, English language became the dominant language all over the world. It was therefore a moment of some significance when the 1851 a German, Jacob Grimm, the leading philologist of his time, commanded that all of the modern languages, not one, has acquired such great strength and vigor as the English, and concluded that and may be called justly a language of the world. So that claim to English language that English has become the global language. And his view was much quoted. And during the 19th century, smaller opinions multiplied as British uh, imper imperial view, that is, the linguist Richard W. Bailey, in his cultural history of the language, images of English, has compiled a number of comments from contemporary writers which show just how the mood had changed by 1850. One quotation will suppose to illustrate the prevailing opinion from a writer in 1829. So this is the situation of English language. So the situation also in Australasia, it is not only the widely spoken as the only European language known on the first continent, but written and the printed in all in an almost credible number of newspaper, magazine, and reviews. In Asia, so great it is the desire manifested to learn that it was thought by Bishop Heber that if proper facilities were afforded, it would, in 50 years, supersede Hindustani and become the court and the camp language of India. In America, millions already speak, write, and read it, and as their mother tongue, and never before did a language took forward uh, to so bright prospect of this. And in Europe, the study of it seems to be gradually spreading. In Germany, Russia, Scandinavia, it is estimated and essential. In France, are highly useful. A branch of education in Africa, it is gradually superseding the Dutch and becoming the medium of valuable information. So indeed, by the end of the century, as we have seen in chapter 1, that English has become the language on which the sun never sets. So the English language was in such a position that it will never uh, have a negative effect on it. And this is the way that English language has become the global language. About 60 million people were speaking English around the world as a mother tongue by 1850. A remarkable increase indeed, but this led many writers to become very excited about the English language prospect. So by 1850 decades, 60 million people had been speaking English as their father language. And this ratio made many people very much optimistic about the future of English language. So by the turn of the century, some calculated that there would surely be at least 3 times as many. So many people said that yes, actually the number at that time in 1850 decades were many. They had been first language. And the others were predicting in the 1870 After a further century, the grand total of mother tongue speakers would almost certainly reach 1,000 million at least. And here is the editor of the phonetic journal, Isaac Pitman, writing about the future of English. He observed that the contemporary users of English number nearly million, 80 million, and then uses formulae on population projection in various countries to reach the following conclusion. That is, they estimate the ratio. We may estimate this basic of of the year 2000. The most important language will be spoken as, that is, Italian 53 crore, no 5 crore, French 7 crore, Russian 13 crore, and German 15 crore, Spanish 50 crore, and English in Europe 17 crore, United States and non-European 18 crore, and British dependencies 16 crore. So this is the situation that was estimated by 2000. That is, English language was used by so many people, and this is the data of the population of other languages: Italian, French, Russian, German, and Spanish. So in comparison to these several dominant languages, English was in the topmost. And such predictions were wide to mark, as we have seen in chapter 2. Even the most optimistic and the estimates of the mother tongue use in the 1990 decades hardly exceeded 450 million. The late 19th century, writers were making assumptions which were soon to prove false. An empire building would continue at the same rate, that British industrial supremacy would be maintained, and that those who spoke minority language would not fight back. Predicting the linguistic feature is always a dangerous activity. So this is the history of English language. And perhaps if the Normans had not taken up Perhaps if the Norman had taken up residence in large number, or if good political relations between England and France had lasted longer, and if the English had not already been so well established since Anglo-Saxon times, the outcome might have been different. This book would then all the possibility have been written about the world French. So the many situation also initiated English language as the foreign language. And so what was the worth of the English language? And as it grew in the global status during the 19th century, in which ways these people value it? In which ways have they since come to use it? In which situation do they now depend on it? The answer to this question will give us a sense of the language's social influences, usefulness, which is actually more informative in addressing the question, why world English? And then any bare historical account of the language geographical spread, such as one provided chapter. And the geohistorical survey can help us to depend. So the English language, why English language? Once upon a time in 14th and 15th and 16th century, there was a dominance of Latin language, but gradually English language was taking its position. And what is the position? That means English language was superseding little language, and many reasons of that. That means one reasons that had been placed, that is the clarity in expression. That in English language, it is very much easy to make a communication and to express something very easily in clarity of language. And apart from that, then some great writer, that means William Shakespeare, started um, writing in English language. And also some historical influence, that means the Anglo-Saxon origin in English language. And apart from that, the Norman conquest. So the history also helped English language to gain its position as a global English language. And that means that English language is a language that is, and also another thing is that that is the uh, the English people, the English voyager, spread their colony to America, and uh, America became the more dominant economic power in the 20th century. With overall the situation, we have observed that English language is such a language on which the sun never sets. That means English language has gained the all-time favorable attitude to him. And for this reason, English language has become the global language, and it has been used by the maximum number of people all over the world. Nearly three-fourths or even more, three-fourths of the world population, and even more people all over the world, they have the standard command of English language uses. So that is the scenario, that is the reason that why English language has become the global language. Some other reasons are also included, that is why English language has become the global language. That is that will be discussed in the next part of